Today I want to talk to you about the inspection process from a seller perspective. When you accepted the contract on your home, one of the deadlines in that contract is what we call the inspection objection deadline, and another one is called the inspection resolution deadline. These are very important dates, and this is the main off-ramp from the contract for your buyer. Your buyer is going to schedule an inspection, and depending on what areas of concern they've got, they may include radon tests, they may include mold testing, they may include well testing if you have a well. There's a whole battery of tests. And when they actually do their inspection, we want you to make sure your house is left in as good a shape as possible for them. So if you know there are things that need to be taken care of, let's get them done before that inspection takes place. When the buyers come and do their inspection, their inspector is going to test everything in the house, and they are going to find things you didn't know were wrong. It just happens. So one of the things they're going to do is those items are going to end up on a list we call the inspection objection notice. And that notice is going to be a list of things that they either want a credit for, want you to fix, or otherwise deal with as a part of the contract. Now in Colorado, you don't have to fix anything, but they don't have to buy your house. And so this becomes a negotiation. And what we want to do is focus on the things in particular that are what we call safe, sound, and sanitary issues. If the buyer finds that your roof is damaged, that roof's going to have to be repaired for this buyer or any other buyer, because they're not going to be able to get insurance on the house if we don't take care of it. If your furnace hasn't been cleaned, they're going to ask for it to be cleaned 9 times out of 10. And so just be prepared for it. It's not a huge thing. It's typically less than $100, but it's something that they're gonna likely ask for if it needs it. I would say that 2/3 of the homes that we inspect have some level of electrical issues. Either there's reverse polarity, improper grounding, problems with the ground fault interrupt, and so just be prepared. These very, very often will end up on your inspection list. The goal is to come to an agreement with the buyer so that you can stay under contract and get to a successful close. When they ask for these things and you agree to a list of things that we're going to get taken care of, we call that the inspection resolution. And all the parties have to have it signed by the deadline that's on the contract, by midnight on that night. The contract technically terminates at midnight that night if we don't have a signed inspection resolution. So it's also important when they make this request that you deal with the issues on a timely basis as far as making sure you're okay with doing them. The idea is to come to an agreement by the inspection resolution, not to have everything fixed. And sometimes sellers get confused by that. All we're doing is saying we're going to take care of this by a certain time, and it's usually closing or a day or two before closing. We prefer not to leave things right to closing day because you're supposed to be out of the house on that day and they're supposed to be doing their walkthrough, and all inspection issues should be done at that time. When you've agreed to an inspection resolution, it's very important that you take the responsibilities seriously. So if there's an item on there that says that a licensed electrician is supposed to do something, make sure it's a licensed electrician and not your brother-in-law or you did it on a Saturday. If you want to have your brother-in-law do it, or it's an item you really want to take care of, we need to negotiate out the requirement that it be a licensed electrician at the time we're coming up with your inspection resolution. Otherwise, if a license is indicated, a license needs to do the work, and that's really important. The other thing is if it's any work that requires permits, even if it's not specified in the inspection resolution, permits need to be taken. So if a roof is going to be replaced, don't get a roofing contractor out there that is not licensed. Make sure that they're licensed and that they get the proper permits and inspections from Regional Building. This really comes up a lot with water heaters. It's surprising how many plumbing contractors will actually install a water heater without taking out permit. And this becomes a big problem, and you don't want it happening the day before closing where they tell you didn't get a permit and now we have to go back and do it, because that can really slow things down. So make sure that when you get things like a water heater replaced that require permits, that the permits are taken out by the plumbing contractor that's doing the replacement, and that you oversee that so that you've got a signed off permit that you can bring to closing. Hope that's all helpful. The goal whenever we have an inspection is to get an agreement between the parties so that we can get you to a successful closing and on your way.